Selamun Aleyküm. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Rabbi şrah li sadri ve yessir li emri ve uqdatan min lisani yefqahu qawli. Last week we studied the second table. This is the section of 17th word, a fruit of the pine, cedar, juniper, and black cypress trees. So in my book, this is page 235.
A fruit of the pine, cedar, juniper, and black cypress trees in the uplands of Barla. While being a part of the 11th letter, this has been included here on account of its station. One time, during my captivity, while gazing at the majestic and wonderful forms of the pine, cedar, and juniper trees on the mountaintop, a gentle breeze was blowing, transforming the scene into a magnificent, delightful, and clamorous display of dancing and a rapturous performance of praise and glorification. The enjoyment of watching it was transformed into instruction for my eyes and wisdom for my ears. I suddenly recalled the Kurdish lines of Ahmed al-Jizri, whose meaning is, "Everyone has hastened to gaze at you and your beauty. They are acting coyly before your beauty." My heart wept as follows, expressing their instructive meanings. The meaning of the verses in Persian written at Tepe Lige in the mountains of Barla, around the fruit of the pine, cedar, juniper, and black cypress trees is this. Living creatures have appeared from everywhere on the face of the earth, your art to gaze on you. From above and below, they emerge like heralds and call out. The herald-like trees take pleasure at the beauty of your embroideries, and they dance. They are filled with joy at the perfection of your art and utter most beautiful sounds. It is as if the sweetness of their own voices fills them with joy too, and makes them perform a delicate melody. In response, the trees have started dancing and are seeking ecstasy. It is through these works of divine mercy that all the living creatures receive instruction in the glorification and prayer particular to each. After receiving instruction, on high rocks the trees raise their heads to the divine throne. Each, like Shahbaz Kalandar, stretches out 100 hands to the court of God and assumes an imposing position of worship. They make their small tassel-like twigs and branches dance, so both they and those that watch them express their fine pleasure and elevated delight. They give voice as though touching the most sensitive strings and veins of the veils of love. Ah, it is he. From it, a meaning such as this comes to mind. They recall both the weeping caused by the pain of the fading of metaphorical loves and a profoundly sorrowful moaning. They make heard the melancholy songs of all lovers parted from their beloveds, like Sultan Mahmud. They seem to have a duty of making the dead hear the pre-eternal songs and sorrowful voices, who no longer hear worldly voices and words. The Spirit understands from this that beings respond with glorification to the manifestation of the glorious Maker's names. They perform a graceful chant. The heart reads the mystery of divine unity from these trees, each like an embodied sign from the elevated order of this miraculousness. That is, there is so wonderful an order, art, and wisdom in the manner of their creation that if all the causes in existence had the power to act and choose, and they gathered together, they could not imitate them. The soul, on seeing them, sees the whole earth as revolving in a clamorous tumult of separation, and seeks enduring pleasure. It receives the meaning, you will find it in abandoning worship of this world. The mind discovers from the chanting animals and trees and the vociferous plants and air a most meaningful order of creation, embroidery of wisdom, and treasury of secrets. The desirous soul receives such pleasure from the murmuring air and whispering leaves that it forgets all metaphorical pleasures, and through abandoning these, which endow it with life, wants to die in the pleasure of reality. The imagination sees that appointed angels have entered these trees like bodies, from whose branches hang many flutes. It is as though an eternal monarch has clothed the angels in the trees for a splendid parade, accompanied with the sounds of 1,000 flutes. Thus, the trees show themselves to be not lifeless, unconscious bodies, but highly conscious and meaningful. The flutes are pure and powerful, as though issuing from a heavenly, exalted orchestra. The mind does not hear from them the sorrowful plaints of separation that foremost Mevlana Jalaluddin Rumi and all lovers hear, but dominical praise and laudation and grateful thanks offered to the most merciful one, the ever-living, the self-subsistent. Since the trees have all become bodies, their leaves have become tongues, and the touching of the breeze each recites over and over again, "It is he, it is he." With the benedictions of their lives, they proclaim their Maker to be ever-living and self-subsistent. With the tongue of disposition, they continuously declare, "O God," and seek the necessities of their lives from Him, from the treasury of mercy. And through the tongue of their manifesting life from top to bottom, they recite His name of O Living One. O ever-living and self-subsistent One. Through the names of ever-living and self-subsistent, endow the heart of this wretched one with life, and bestow sound direction on his confused mind. Amen.
Jazakallah. Thank you for reading again. Okay, Nizam, go ahead, please.
One time, during my captivity, while gazing at the majestic and wonderful forms of the pine, cedar, and juniper trees on the mountaintop, a gentle breeze was blowing, transforming the scene into a magnificent, delightful, and clamorous display of dancing and a rapturous performance of praise and glorification. The enjoyment of watching it was transformed into instruction for my eyes and wisdom for my ears. I suddenly recalled the Kurdish lines of Ahmed al-Jizri, whose meaning is, "Everyone has hastened to gaze at you and your beauty. They are acting coyly before your beauty."
So one thing I'm still not sure that I fully understood is, I have some ideas I can share, but I guess discussing with you would be great. The part is, in this first paragraph, it says the enjoyment of watching it was transformed into instruction for my eyes and wisdom for my ears. So instruction for my eyes and wisdom for my ears. So he's not talking about his mind or reasoning, but rather he's saying instruction for my eyes and wisdom for my ears. That I found very unexpected, let's say, because it's talking about some instructions and wisdom, which I would expect to be targeted to the mind or the intellect. I'm not sure if it is the issue of translation, but so what I understood from here is, I guess in the following parts as well, he will touch on a little bit. He says the words versus the realization of these words, like the actions taking place in the creation. So we read things, let's say from Quran, we somehow understand them, but they become something more touching when we see them in action or when we hear them, let's say. So when they target it to our senses, they become more effective. We can make like a stronger connections with them. So seeing the words of, let's say, God from Quran being realized in the creation, in this case, in the dancing of the trees, make him make a stronger connection with it. So it becomes an instruction for his eyes, because in front of his eyes, he can see what it means. So instructions are not just written or explained; they're just shown in front of his eyes, and he can also hear them. So I guess this is especially important for us. Like, I'm putting myself first and foremost, of course, at the center stage, but like the people like us who are somehow live in an isolated manner, like isolated from the creation. Not because we only live in the cities or work in the offices, but the way we interact with the life, even when we are outside. We live in a very isolated manner. Like, we don't care about the surrounding. We don't see them. We don't hear them anymore. I don't know why, but this is at least true for me. Like, I walk on the street, I go to work. If somebody asks me, what have you seen, which is at least 30-minute walks, let's say 25 minutes, I'm not sure I can describe, I can't say anything. I can share with them what I told, because, my mind is full of ideas about the world. But I'm not sure I can, share with anyone what I seen, what I heard.
As if we are living life through textbooks.
Exactly, yes. So before continuing, Asim has many messages. Let's read them. He says, one thing I'm noticing is that the author is not wasting his tools such as eyes. Yes, exactly. Great point. He says, he's making a point that they are useful and purposeful for something. Wisdom for the ears, some purposefulness. Wisdom for ears, same purposefulness. How many times do we get excited by looking at a tree? So, yes, he summarized much better than me. So that's the reason I actually asking people to take the mic and speak rather than I'm speaking, because most of the people are better than me. So Jazakallah khair. Awesome. So yes, the way I live the life is, I can feel it. Like, I can say that, easily say that. As Asim was saying, I'm wasting most of my faculties, my tools. They are not even utilized. Forget about the wrong utilization of them. They are not even utilized.
And as a general overall comment for the text, it attracted my attention that he is even utilizing his imagination.
Yes.
So, because in our discussions, we are trying to mention more about intellect, since it is being neglected a lot. But here, he talks about wisdom, he talks about intellect, but also he talks about heart and spirit, but and also soul. And then he talks about imagination. Talking about imagination is quite extreme. It can be and it should be used for talking about or arriving to a conclusion about the Creator. It was interesting to observe.
Yes, like he says, even the imagination has a purpose. Like, it's not there just for you to waste the time. Like, because the way I use imagination If I don't have anything to do, I just lose myself in dreams. Like this is the way I utilize my imagination. Sorry for this sound, by the way, coming from outside. Because it's a snowy day, I guess a truck stuck on the road. Yeah, okay. Now it's done. So again, sorry for that. So what I was saying, yeah, the way I myself utilize imagination is just wasting the time. But the way he used the imagination to arrive at a conclusion or learn something about his creator. Or the, let's say, some aspects of the creation. He's talking about the angels. And through imagination, he makes the connection with the angels. This is like overly extraordinary, at least for someone like me.
And this poem over there, everyone has hastened to gaze at you and your beauty. They are acting coyly before your beauty. So this one is an interesting line because the poet in here is talking about everyone is joyfully or running towards or excited about looking at the beauty, but at your beauty. So of course this everyone needs to be underlined over here. Who is this everyone? Because the Nursi here is talking about the trees themselves. And he initially started with the feeling that he was excited when he looked at the trees and how they are moving, or then he's going to make like metaphorically, or he will read it as if the trees are dancing. But from there, everyone, I guess, is a wider definition of everyone comes here. Now he's going to talk about being themselves, also being happy, like the trees are happy for looking at the beauty of their maker. So I mean, with this perspective now, it's not only we humans are looking at the beauty out there. All the beings within the existence is conscious and looking at his beauty. This is why like the trees are happy, or the way that the author sees it or the poet sees it, they are happy and they are joyfully dancing because they are looking at his beauty and they are showing eagerness to his beauty. I mean, to me, this text is like a case study of how to, if you like, be happy in life by utilizing all your senses, all your tools. Because if I can really look at life like this, then I'm not really alone, because the trees are dancing with the joy of the beauty of Creator. Because otherwise, when I look at it, I am generally going with Twitter, Facebook, and looking for the news of war in Yemen or Syria, and all those darkening things are becoming part of my life, as if the whole world is like a corrupt place, and it's just we are waiting for what's at the end of times to come. Everything is so corrupt, everything is so messed up. I don't know how I ended up in this world. I mean, this sort of a gloomy feeling kicks in. But if I look at it the other way around, well, we are not the only inhabitants of this universe. Humans are not, we are just a tiny part of it. Okay, humans are important, but other than humans, trees are there, birds are there, everything is in there, and they are quite enjoying their existence and their maker. So I guess this would give me a more hopeful life, because lack of hope is coming with the other sort of news. But if I take my news from the trees and birds instead of Facebook and Twitter, I guess life is going to change for sure. Quality of life is going to change.
It's an interesting way to put it. Taking news from birds and trees instead of Facebook.
Yeah.
And I guess in the rest, he explains how to get the news from birds and trees. So I really want to highlight again the part that I read. It was transformed into instruction for my eyes, and wisdom for my ears. I guess to be able to fully understand what he's talking about, we should practice this. Like we should practicing seeing and hearing. It's not something hard, right? Like it's something we should be doing all the time already, but for some reason we don't.
And that's right. So we generally even don't watch it. But let me watch it. Let's say sometimes you look at sunset, or you go to the side of the river and look at the reflections of setting sun over the river. So this is the part that says the enjoyment of watching. So generally, even if I stop there. I just enjoy the scene passes by, or the best I say, oh, look how God creates things with a half mouth. Just I am forcing myself to make something out of it. I'm better than nothing. But now he is saying that this weaving itself is getting into wisdom, or wisdom for the ears, instruction for the eyes.
My heart wept as follows, expressing their instructive meanings. The meaning of the verses in Persian written at Tepelege in the mountains of Barla about the fruit of the pine, cedar, juniper, and black cypress trees is this. Living creatures have appeared from everywhere on the face of the earth, your art, to gaze on you. Living creatures have appeared to gaze on you. From above and below, they emerge like heralds and call out. So they emerge like messengers and call out. They give a message. Interesting. The herald-like trees take pleasure at the beauty of your embroideries, and they dance.
Well, this herald, I'd just like to mention this word because throughout Nursi's writings, the word herald is being mentioned here and there. It is being used for human. It is being especially used for the messenger, والسلام. And in here, he is now using it for any creation. So let's first use it for the most obvious meaning of messenger. Because even in the Sufi literature, this herald is being used for the prophet. And it is like the herald is this man with this drum and playing the drum, shouts out saying that this is what our king is telling you. So people are unaware of a thing, and the herald is the person to make the announcement by attracting people's attention. So a herald is the one that, as if almost forcibly, tells you the truth, making the announcement about the truth. So at several points, Nursi says that this is the duty of Prophet ﷺ. In another part, he is now taking this as a duty of man. As a human, this is also I should be a herald. And if when we are studying human, inshallah, beginning from the other weeks, we are going to see this topic herald in there as well. And now he's using the same for the creatures. He's saying that every creature is a herald. It's making announcement of its maker. So, because generally a tree is just silently stopping there. I mean, it just stands there. I don't hear it, I don't see it, but he's saying that no, every tree is a herald and it's making an announcement. Or every bird is a herald. So when the bird is singing, actually it is announcing something. So looking at it from this perspective is interesting.
The part he talks about the living creatures have appeared to gaze on you. The herald-like trees take pleasure at the beauty of your embroideries, and they dance. So the first time I read it, again, it sounded a little weird. Things looking at him. So, I mean, if we take it on the surface value that things looking at him, it is nothing but just speculation, right? I mean, I'm saying that trees is looking to the creator. How you support this idea or dissupport this idea, like how you falsify this. It's just piece of art, like a poem. Now, when you take it from your own perspective, then it starts making sense, because you can read it as, through the tree, I reach some names of the creator. So as if tree is looking at him and reflecting whatever sees to me. So through this reflection, I can then, how to say, I can know the truthness of this claim, that the trees are looking at him. Because when I look at the tree, when I study the tree, when I see the tree, when I hear the tree, I know about my creator. I know about my name, the names of my creator. So I can easily say that, yeah, tree is acting like a mirror, as if a mirror facing to him and reflecting his light to me. So I guess we shouldn't forget that when we read Nursi, I don't know if maybe it is a bold claim, but the way I understand is when we read the Nursi, we shouldn't forget that he's talking about our own perspective. He's talking to me. He's not talking to tree, or he's not talking to birds. At least in this writing. He's talking to me, or himself. So I guess, again, when he says the trees or every living creature is looking at him, his beauty, the way I understand is through these living creatures, I can see the beauty of my creator. There is also another part. It says the herald black trees that take pleasure at the beauty of your embroideries, and they dance. So embroideries themselves on the trees, like the creation of the tree is so artful, which gives pleasure to tree, which is an interesting way of expressing, right? So I guess I can again check it with myself. The way I'm being created, like every tiny part of my body taking care so precisely. When I study myself, like it's nothing but art, not that I'm handsome or something, but as a general. When I study myself, let's say when I study Yusuf, make it less egocentric. When I study Yusuf, it's nothing but art, like nothing but beauty. And I can see that whoever or whatever is creating him, taking care of him, like showing his love on him, which gives me the pleasure, right? I'm being taken care of. Whoever is creating me, it's not just, creating something. It's creating so precisely, as if giving me so much value.
So practically, for instance, if your voice is good, then when you sing a song, you enjoy your own song. What you're enjoying is actually the fact that you are singing the song is what makes you enjoy, because you can listen a song from a person who has a beautiful song, you're going to enjoy that. But when you sing it yourself, you enjoy it more. Or let's say if you are good at solving a problem, let's say those puzzles, and as you keep solving the puzzle, you get an enjoyment out of that. Or I guess this is more obvious in horses. They say as they run, they are made for running, but they enjoy as they run more. So this is the art in there. So for a horse being able to, it's a perfect mechanism, perfect machinery. Working perfectly is what makes it enjoy. For a mind, it's solving a problem. For a sound, it is singing beautifully. So the act itself, the beauty in there is what makes you enjoy. And now in his case, he's saying that a phenomena which we would consider, the trees are moving because of wind. But he's saying that no, trees are moving because they are dancing, they are enjoying whatever is given to them. I mean, the embroideries in them are either a leaf, because leaves are moving. So they're saying that here, look what I have, and they're moving their leaves, sort of. I mean, this is how the author is now reading it. Instead of saying that it is natural for trees to shake their leaves if there's a difference of pressure, air pressure from up to the down, or the temperatures, so that the air flow, then there is no other way but the leaves are moving. So he's not going with this naturalistic explanation, but he says, no, they are dancing. And I guess the same thing applies to it as well. This guy is enjoying singing a song because it's natural, or the horse is enjoying running because it's natural. When it comes to us, we know that it's more than natural. I mean, why do I enjoy singing a song? So same way he says, this is also applicable to the tree. The tree is not really naturally waving it. The tree is enjoying its existence and the embroideries that are on top of it. So I can relate to it because I have a similar experience. He's saying that why not? This shouldn't be applicable to the tree. And as I look at it, as you were saying, from my perspective, if I were a tree, I would enjoy. So I guess this is how a reasoning part of it would work, because he's going to take an imagination part of it, but the reasoning part would be, as a human, I am enjoying singing a song, and I guess if I were to be a tree, I would be enjoying it. So I can assume that it's doing it. If it does, if it doesn't really matter. But I do observe such a thing.
It happens in front of your eyes. I mean, you can deny it, sure, but it's happening in front of your eyes. You don't even have to think deeply about it or make comparisons. It's taking place just in front of you.
Like the children that are living, primary school children, after the school closes, they hold each other's hands and just jump in the streets when they go home. So you see that the children are enjoying themselves or singing a song. I guess something similar in this sense. You see in the street, trees are dancing together.
They are filled with joy at the perfection of your art and other most beautiful songs. I guess once you realize that you are being created, that constantly at the moment you are being created, and when you again realize the beauty of this creation, how beautifully it's taking place, gives you joy. So the tree with its perfect creation, like as a tree, having the joy of being tree, being created, demonstrating all these names on itself, names of the Creator, realizing that I'm manifesting all these names. like when you first read it, it's a little bit counterintuitive. It's pleasure of being a painting, right? It's not even like he's not talking about the pleasure of being a painter. He's talking about the pleasure of being a painting, a very beautiful painting.
Now I'm thinking of if this is a speculation or not, but previously I was not paying attention to human behavior either. And after reading a few things here and there about human behavior, because previously I was seeing a person, especially a definite person anyways, so he was reading people's body movement, gestures and everything, and he was driving some conclusions out of that. And not 100%, but 70%, I was seeing that he was to the point. So I was saying, well, what's going on with this guy? Because normally we would say that this guy's eyes of heart are open, using a terminology, and he's reading people's minds or people's heart, whatever. But later on I realized that people, as they go through, for example, now I'm trying to explain something, yeah, I'm trying to make it with a few words, but when I do that, my eyes or eyebrows are moving. So maybe I am not speaking everything with my mouth, but some of my feelings are being manifest through my body language. So as you start paying attention to these sort of things, then you realize that even if people tell lies with their mouth, their bodies speak a lot, much more than what their tongue says. And if you train yourself with that, well, maybe not 100%, but in order to do that, of course, you first need to turn back to yourself and see what you are doing. And if you pay attention to yourself as a human, what am I? Who am I? And not for the purpose of learning about people's secrets, but because I'm a creation, and what am I? What do I mean? Or what was meant by me? Let's put it this way. Now the author is doing the same for not only for humans. He is now expanding this to the rest of the creation, saying that then this behavior of the trees appears to be like that.
Any other ideas, thoughts? It is as if the sweetness of their own voices fills them with joy too, and makes them perform a delicate melody. I guess this is when Yusuf was talking earlier, when he said, if you have a beautiful voice, you enjoy listening to yourself. In response, the trees have started dancing and are seeking ecstasy. It is through these works of divine mercy.
Can we go back to that sentence now?
Yeah, go ahead, please.
No, can you explain it more?
Oh.
Especially the ending, seeking ecstasy.
I guess it's more like they're seeking for more pleasure, maybe? Because, let me think.
So they're already happy in being a painting,
Mm-hmm.
and they see the art, and now they want more pleasure? Is that what it is?
Maybe we can take it that way, yes. And once you realize that you are being created, and once you start feeling the love, which is manifested through you, I guess you start enjoying it and asking more and more, or waiting for more, maybe. Any other ideas? I don't know. I'm not sure. And this is what comes to my mind. But So in the Turkish version, he says, şu ağaçlar raksa gelmiş, cezbe istiyorlar. So they want cezbe. Cezbe, how you would translate it? Attraction or?
Ecstasy would be one meaning, but you can also translate it as to be attracted.
So it's like being directed towards the beauty. That's what I understand. Like they realize the beauty of something and they turn their face toward the beauty, the source of the beauty. It is through these works of divine mercy that all the living creatures receive instruction in the glorification and prayer particular to each. So very deep sentence. Instructions for glorification and prayer particular to each. So any ideas? Like what kind of instructions for glorification and prayer? So it's saying there's an art taking place, and through this artful creation, you receive some instructions about the glorification and the prayer. So you look at something beautiful, and it tells you how to pray. Isn't it a little strange? I guess it sounds strange when we take it at the prayer or glorification, when we take it as in its like superficial meaning, it sounds very strange. But once we start questioning like what it means, glorification or prayer, the more interesting, in the original version for the prayer, he used the word namaz, which is salah. Like through the beauty, we receive instructions for salah, for prayer. Like 5 daily prayers we do. We receive how to pray from the beauty that we observe. Or even, it's, I guess, goes even deeper. It says the tree itself received the instruction how to pray, which is specific to itself. Like a tree's prayer would be different than my prayer. But through this artful creation, a tree, just like me, receives some instructions of how to pray. This, I don't know, maybe I'm misunderstanding, but this is so mind-blowing. I guess if we can make sense of this part, it may even change our understanding of the prayer, like how we do the salah. And I guess as a clue is putting them together, glorification and prayer. Oh, Faria, she says something, let me read. She says, if you look at the things with a conscious mindset, everything says, hi, I manifest qualities of our Creator, which is my Creator as well. if you look at the things with a conscious mindset, everything says, I manifest qualities of our creator, which is my creator as well. So I guess she's saying that through reading the creation, you reach the oneness, like you reach the understanding of the Tawheed, oneness of the Creator. So what I understand from this part, let me share what I understand. When he says, through these works of divine mercy, that all the living creatures receive instruction in the glorification and prayer particular to each. So when I look at myself, or when I look at what is around me, and when I'm able to see the art on it, when I'm able to see the wisdom, the beauty in it, I guess the glorification is something like I need to do, I want to do. Like exalting the source of this creation is something comes natural to me. Like I see such a wonderful thing and I say, wow. Just like I'm visiting a museum, like every piece of art you watch, you voluntarily, like consciously say, wow, this is something. Right? And when you look at the creation with the same mindset, which is open mindset, and when you see the greatness of the creation, again, your response, I guess, automatically is just saying, wow, glorifying. Not only articulation of the word wow, but even your feelings, your body, like your mind, your heart is submit to this greatness. So this is the glorification part, I guess, like the enjoyment you get, admiration you have, or feeling of impotence against it. It's so big, like the creation, not as a mass, but the power of the creation, the beauty of the creation is so big, makes you so minute. And again, like you do nothing but exalting, just by being you. And then I also received the instruction for the prayer because, again, through my feelings or through my understanding of the reality, first, for instance, I say Allahu Akbar, right? Like He is greater than everything. Whatever is the source of this creation, which takes in front of me, is greater than everything. I cannot imagine anything bigger than, greater than Him. So the word Allahu Akbar, right, is embodied in my state. This is how I feel. I feel I live the Allahu Akbar there. And then continues like Subhanallah, right? Subhanaka. He doesn't have any defects. Again, not just observing the reality, like living the reality, the creation. And then comes the prostration, and then comes the sajda. I guess So taking it the other way around, when we do the prayer that we know, the Salah, 5 daily prayers, if we can make these connections with the creation, like if we can see that I'm prostrating because this is what comes natural to me. Like the prostration is the, again, showing how I feel against the artwork of these artists. Or Allahu Akbar, this is like how I respond.
It's your natural reaction.
Exactly. I mean, natural sometimes sounds weird. Maybe this is a reaction that I find right, the truth. I am peace with this reaction. I am in peace with this reaction. So then prayer is not anymore something I do because I was ordered or instructed in that way, like you have to stand like this and then move like this and then prostrate. When I make the connection with the creation, I say, yes, this makes sense. This is something I can do, I can enjoy doing it. And same way, I guess, the tree as well, by observing its own creation, or observing the creation taking place around itself, in its own capacity, it is doing its own prayer by responding to the creation. So I get, in summary, what I understand from here, glorification, tasbihah, and prayer, salah, namaz, they're not just things that we learn from our fathers. They are our response, reaction to the creation. Any other thoughts, please? One, I talk a lot, too much.
It was a beautiful perspective. Thank you.
After receiving instruction on high rocks, I really don't want to say here, this is really interesting text again and again, but this is really interesting text. I'll do it. After receiving instruction on high rocks, the trees raise their heads to the divine throne, the arsh. After receiving instruction on high rocks, the trees raise their heads to the divine throne. So they reach the arsh. What it means, like, just talking about the long trees, maybe. Or another, there's a comment, yes. Please write something, say something so that, you save me from my own voice. She says,
you also us.
yes, please. She says, when something is an automatic, yes, sorry for my English. For something is an automatic, sorry, I will manage this, yes. When something is an automatic reaction, like feeling joy, watching a tree, for example, is there free will involved in that? Yes, good question. So I guess that's the reason I was kind of reluctant, even though I also used myself, that automatic or natural reaction. So when we put it that way, like we see something as automatically we say, wow, it's great, or the maker is great, it sounds as if like we are coded that way and we don't have any other option. So I guess we don't have to theorize to give an answer for that. Because I know from first hand that when I see something, how I perceive it is on my hands and in my hands. Like I can perceive it as something beautiful, I can perceive it as something ugly. I can read some body movements. I can interpret it as, oh yeah, he's or she's jealous, or I can interpret that he's or she is sick. Like it's always my free will. This is how I live. I guess it always goes through the filter of my free will, and then ends up in a reaction. So again, this is like practically speaking, how I live the life, how I feel living the life. So to your question, I would say yes, the free will is not only involved, it's like at the center maybe, like the beginning part is the free will. Even when you look at the creation, you start with the free will. You're choosing to look at the creation. And then you're choosing to listen to the creation. What they say, what they tell me. Because most of the human beings, including me, we don't see trees as heralds. But he sees the trees as heralds. So obviously there's an act of free will there. He wants to listen what they say, and I ignore them. So she says that makes sense. Thanks. Does the same goes with wanting to prostrate? Again, just practically speaking, I would say yes, because I know sometimes I am willing to prostrate, and I can see the difference compared to the times that I don't care about the prostrate, but I prostrate just because I know that I need to prostrate. There's a huge difference between these two. Again, practically speaking. So prostration as a reaction to the beauty of the creation is totally different than prostration as a, what would you say? Is it this kind of thing? Like, not order, but like ezber?
Perfunctory.
Obligation, maybe? Yeah, for me, there's a huge difference between prostration as a reaction, acknowledgement of something, and prostration as an obligation. And I can, again, see how my free will is acting there. Oh, there's another comment, some other comments. From Demir, I'm assuming this is Osman Demir, but I don't know. We are wired to love beauty. Okay, we are wired. This is Osman's terms, but I might be mistaken, so sorry in advance. We are wired to love beauty. That is human nature. Free will acts when it comes to who you are attributing to beauty. Interesting. Let me read from the beginning. This is beautiful. We are wired to love beauty. That is human nature. Free will acts when it comes to whom you are attributing the beauty to. It requires conscious acknowledgement. Yes, that's an important clarification, I guess.
For example, I'm not a musician at all anyways. I'm not going to make even a joke about that. So when I see the notes over a paper, I cannot read the notes. So they don't mean almost nothing to me. not much, almost nothing to me. But they say one of those composers, I don't even know the name, Mozart or one of them, was deaf to the end of his life. He told me. So, but he was still composing when he was deaf, which means without hearing them, he was hearing those things. So it means like, just if you like, the behavior or the ink over the paper was much more than an ink over the paper for him, as if the ink was playing the sound for him, or even hitting a note without hearing it from his ear, he was hearing it. So with his free will, he went through the training. So he came to the point that without hearing, he was hearing. So I guess the free will gets into this part of it. So you can train yourself to hear what the trees are saying. If you are not trained, I mean, if you didn't put your free will in there, the trees will be just moving because of the wind, that's all. But if I put effort in there, use my free will in there, then I will start making sense of it and start enjoying it. Because otherwise, yeah, it's just, I mean, of course there would be something, because when you see the note, you would say, yeah, there must be something in here, but if you ignore, it's gone. Well, to me, for example, I know that they are notes, but that's it, nothing more than that. So I would look at trees, I would say, yeah, they are moving with wind, that's it. But I guess the free will get into the picture and say that there must be something more than that. And I will not stop there, I will study what this more is. Then it will start speaking to me, I guess.
Yeah, once you start asking, yes, it's not you giving the answer. That's obvious. So maybe from, like, at this point, yes, maybe we cannot talk about our faculties, like free will. But the asking part is you. The example you gave about this composer, it is interesting. It is very useful, actually, because it's a practical example, right? He was not just imagining things, or again, he was not being just poetic when he was looking at the notes or writing them and hearing them. No, he was producing the piece, the artwork. So what I'm trying to say, it's not just talking, but he was putting the thing into work, like he was really hearing without hearing. So what I'm trying to say, that what Nusi is describing here, it's not just a poetic work. It is possible. An example of Beethoven, I guess, like, gives us it kind of proves that. If you want to hear the sound of the writings, you can hear them if you want to hear. If you want to listen what tree is telling you, you can hear. Yes, as you said, he had to go through a training all these years. The same thing. You have to go through the training of listening to trees, understanding them. Just like Nusi did. He spends maybe years, starting from childhood. I remember one time the brother Ali, he was saying, sometimes people take Nursi as they take other saints or evliyas, saying he was so purified or he was so elevated that the things came to him, all these understanding, as if, they were free for him. And he was so angry with this understanding, because he was saying, no, he spent his entire life to understand things. He used his free will. went through the training, just like Beethoven. And at the end, he was able to listen the notes on the paper.
This also reminds me of a famous mathematician, Paul Erdős. So he is the guy that published with cooperated with many scientists all over the world. So he was going to a city, living there for 2 months, publishing 2-3 papers with the people in this university, then going to another city. So this is why he is one of the most collaborative person within mathematical community. So he was saying that when I look at an empty paper, I am seeing mathematical proofs. So because his mind is constantly working, and when he says an empty paper, I start seeing math proofs. So for me, for example, maybe it's going to take so long to even understand one of his proofs, and I would say, well, this guy's just making up. But when it comes to math, we don't generally say that. We say that, wow, this guy put a lot of effort and he proved I'm not understanding. But now that, let's say, we are reading Nursi, maybe we might think that this guy is just like flying and he's just making up or imaginary stuff. But I guess free will applies equally as it applies to Erdős, to Nursi as well.
Our Demir brother, he says, do you realize that there are really not many asking in this text? Do you realize that there are really not many asking in this text? He said, it seems like it already became the second nature of the author. At some point, it is not about asking anymore. It is putting it in practice and feeling it. So these comments can be understood different ways. So I'm not sure, which one I should take. If he or she can talk, I don't know about the connection speed he or she has, but if it is possible to hearing the comments, because sometimes reading them asking what does the first statement mean? Do you asking about the first statement of the first comment, the comment of the Demir, or are you asking about the first statement that we read from the text? Oh yes, Osmonds, it says. So I guess he's referring to, do you realize that there are really not many asking in this text? So okay, let me share what I understand from these comments. I guess he's saying that the author here, at least, is not describing the process that he goes through, like he starts asking and then the answer comes and so on, as if he's doing this all the time, like he doesn't even need to mention it. When he goes to nature, he starts asking. When he looks at the trees, this is how he looks at the trees. He doesn't look at the trees as trees, but he looks at the trees as, let's see what they're going to tell me today. Like, this is the mindset of the author. This is what I understand from the comments. He says, the Demir, what I mean is that at some point you internalize, yes, at some point you internalize the idea so well that you live with it. Yes, okay. So I guess the way I understood was right then. So yes, the author, let's say, he's not having any difficulty to going through this process. This is how he starts. And Asim says, I need a lot of training. Yes, awesome. We all need a lot of training. And inshallah, through these discussions, at least we take the first steps, inshallah. From Feriha, she said, okay, so after training your usage of free will, it then becomes an automatic reaction where you are using the free will and you don't realize it anymore since it becomes second nature. So that was another understanding of the comments of the Demirs. So, I don't know, I might be misreading, but maybe this is a critiques for myself. So maybe we should be more reluctant, even more reluctant to use things like becomes a natural thing for you. You don't even realize using your free will. I guess, yes, when I am heedless, that is true. In my heedless state, I don't even realize that I have free will at all. I just live the life, follow the flow. When I make, yes, decisions, if I enjoy the outcome, I say, yes, I made the decision. Otherwise, I take it as natural order or somebody is playing with me. But yeah, when I'm heedless, I guess I'm not aware of the fact that I have a free will and I'm using it. But I guess when it comes to belief, I'm not sure that there is such a thing that after a certain training, it becomes so natural to you that you do it all the time automatically. I guess it would somehow contradict that everything in this creation is changing constantly.
So can it be like riding a bike? This is what I understood from their definition, the way that they were wording it. Because first time when you're riding bike, your 100% attention is on establishing your balance. But after you get used to it, then sometimes you're not even realizing what's going on. You simply ride the bike and you start enjoying the scenery, whatever. So this is what I understand. Initially, maybe you're going to really force yourself to learn what the author is here, or learn or hear or feel how the trees are dancing. Or maybe you're at a point that you are still questioning, is it being naturally done, or a maker is behind the trees? Is it the DNA? Is it the seed? Because this training has to be done. If I am 100% convinced, then I don't need to go through all these stages of causality, nature, whatever. When I see a tree, if I am automatically now arriving to a conclusion that this is the masterpiece of art of the creator, and if I can do this like immediately instead of 5-10 minutes or hours of thinking, then that means, yes, it sort of became a second nature. But of course, still I need to, when I see the tree, I need to say that this is a masterpiece of the creator. Still I can be ignorant. But relative to my previous experiences with the tree, now I don't need to one by one go through and say that, in our previous discussions, we talked a lot about La ilaha process. So for example, each and every time, I don't have to go through the same process and say that when I look at a tree, this cannot be made by nature, this cannot be made by causes. It becomes like very rapid for you. Then you say, of course, it cannot be any of them. It's only the maker of the universe. That's it. And when you say that this is different than, maybe you were saying it 10, 15, 20 years ago, you were saying that everything is done by the creator. But at that time, it was a very general tawheed. So after going through several times, now again, you are saying that this tree is being made by the creator of heavens and earth, but this time, this word is being backed up by your 15 years. So I guess, yeah, it can become like riding a bike. But this doesn't mean that, of course, as you were saying,
Still, you're
using your free
bike.
will. Yeah, of course, you are using your free will, but it's taking less of an effort.
I see.
For the same thing, but maybe other things are now becoming as challenging for you as the tree was 15 years ago. But now the tree is a easier case for you. But maybe when you meet Nursi right now, it is becoming challenging for you to say that, well, this is too much.
The training is actually to exercise your free will. Basically, that's what I'm understanding. And then the second nature becomes the way the free will is looking at the qualities, I would say, in terms of studying whatever we are seeing. Does that make sense? First of all,
Yes, it makes sense to me. Jazakallah khair.
So again, please do not hesitate to take the mic. Osman says, you reach to a certainty that beings become, okay, you reach to a certainty that beings become speech of your creator, that you start talking to him, communicate with him. Through the beings. Yes, okay. You reach to a certainty that everything is a speech of your creator, and once you reach this certainty, you start communicating with your creator. And sorry, he adds, that is what Nursi does here.
And I guess this is also the same trajectory with how it goes in Surah Al-Fatiha. Initially, you start with, when referring to the Creator, you speak in the third person. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. You are talking about Him in the third person. He is as such, He is as such. And then you come to Iyaka na'budu wa iyaka nasta'in, then you start saying that to you we worship. To you, from you we seek help. Then third person now becomes second person. You directly start having a conversation with him.
This will sound weird, but this is exactly what our Hatib at Friday prayer said.
Mashallah.
Exactly same thing.
Mashallah, interesting.
Seriously. Alhamdulillah.
Mashallah.
Going back to the point, after receiving instruction on high rocks, the trees raise their heads to the divine throne.
Yes.
So we, at this time, thought the divine throne is so divine that, it's just for the Creator. The Creator sits on the divine throne, watch over the creation. If something bad happens, He interferes, or something He interferes to make bad things, like the calamities. So the tree reaching the divine throne is a little counterintuitive when you look from a traditional perspective. So how should we understand? Meanwhile, let me read Osman's Demir's comments. He says, Hatib must be Yusuf today. I'm not giving the answer.
He knows you guys too well.
He was a lovely guy, that's what I can say. So yes, Please, somebody help me. The tree raising its head to the divine throne.
So raise in here is not to reach, I guess. But normally, for example, when this resembles the way that humans do prayer. So in the prayer, when you're going to make dua, the supplication part, so you are on the ground and you just say, raise your head to the skies.
Okay, yes, it's not reaching, raising.
Yeah, raising your head. And then opening up your hands to the skies and say that, oh God, give this to me. And he's saying that the trees are doing the same, as if the top part of the tree is its head and the middle branches are like the hands, and the tree is standing like this, making a supplication.
So then we should assume that the throne, divine throne, is like somewhere up there.
Yes.
And if you want to...
Up in the sky.
Yeah, say it again.
Up in the sky.
Up in the sky. So trees facing the sky, so they're facing the throne.
Yes.
This is what you should understand.
So I guess it's human perception to say that the creator is superior than me. This is why I guess traditionally it was always said that God is up in the sky. I mean, not to literally place him somewhere, but to say that there's a higher being, so relatively speaking. So in here, he's saying that although this was a natural, if you like, quote-unquote, state for human, so a higher being, so the trees are also turning their face toward this higher being, saying that we are in need of you, you are our provider, and you are the beautiful one. So we demonstrate beauty, but this is your beauty. So now turning towards him.
The way I was taking the text, the last part you said, they, with their tongue, they articulate that we in need of you. We need your beauty, we need your art, we need your sustenance. And by saying that, they kind of like describing my creator to me. So they manifesting the names of the creator. So they pointing to the divine throne. Mm-hmm. So in other words, it is me reaching the divine throne by following the trees, by following what they say. I'm raising to, or what is, sorry. Yeah, I raise my head or my, let's say, eyes, my gaze to divine throne by reading the trees. It's like saying, realizing that this tree can be an artwork of the creator, but nothing else. There I reach the divine throne of the creator.
So you come to let's say, you enter to a new job, and you are saying that everybody is paying attention to a certain person. And you say that this guy must be the boss over here because everybody is paying attention to this guy. So then I can ignore that person, but I shouldn't ignore this guy. So yeah, in this case, but it's very interesting because if I'm a heedless person and if I just look at myself, I would think that all the trees are paying attention to themselves, or like the famous saying, survival of the fittest, or life is a struggle. So as if everybody's struggling to save themselves, preserve their own life. But in here, he's saying that no, everything is pointing to him. All of them, they don't have anything to do with the rest. They don't care. They're only taking comments from him or praising him or observing his beauty. So then I should also turn to him. Why shall I waste my time with other creation?
And from this perspective, tree itself also becomes the throne of the Creator. So the tree or any creation is the divine throne, the arch of the Creator. The Creator is sitting there. When I looked at animal, Creator is sitting there. I can see my Creator but nothing else. Names of my Creator.
Metaphorically, this is what a throne means, right?
Yes.
So if a government is ruling, for example, government of a country comes to here and they have an embassy over here. So the president comes and sits in this embassy. And of course, if they were ruling this part of the world as well, the government would have a seat for president in this country too. So in this case, the throne means where you observe the rulership. This is what it signifies. So if you are observing the rulership of the Creator, I mean his creatorness, or his mercy, his sustenance and everything in a tree, then yes, a tree is his throne. This is what throne means. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وآخر دعواهم أن الحمد لله رب العالمين. الفاتحة.